Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing well today. Welcome back. And today we're going to be looking at healthy relationships. Healthy relationships. This is appropriate for any time of year, for any person, in any place, in any circumstance, but especially during the holidays, right? And to have a little review over this before the holidays is very helpful, don't you think? Because when we're around our families or people that might be difficult, we might want to just review this so that we can kind of take an overview and notice some things that might need attention or might need to be, use a boundary with or be addressed, or just to take note for, note to self. Watch out for this person. Or it could be some things that we may see in ourselves that we need to say, I need to deal with this issue. Lord, help me. Show me what to do. So let's just look at healthy relationships, kind of what they look like and things to watch out for. All right. I found a couple of helpful just quotes online. And this one is, healthy relationships use boundaries and they make you feel supported and connected, not dependent. If you're in a relationship that makes you feel dependent, that you can't live without this person, or that you feel less of a person when you're with them, that's an issue that you can bring up and get help with. Another good quote is that a healthy relationship holds two independent people who each want to help make the other the best version of themselves. And you can cooperate in this with each other in what would be best for each individual, because ultimately that's what will be best for the couple. If you're a couple, if you're married, if you're dating, if you have a relationship with a sibling or parent, this works in every relationship. So over here we have the codependent independent who needs no one, who won't let anyone get close to them, and there's no emotional connection, there's no nurturing, there's no love languages being expressed. It's just, you always feel far away from this person. This is not where we want to move toward. Over here is the exact opposite, the codependent dependent, and these two people's lives overlap, where they believe and act as if they are the same person. There's a lack of individuality here, a lack of separate identities. And so these you want to avoid, and you want to move if the person is healthy enough to do this, and if you've been through trauma or whatever, you're healthy enough to be able to do this. Those two things qualify. But this would be a healthy relationship where there are two distinct individuals. They each have their own lives. They have individuality. They have separate identities. They have separate sets of friends. But they overlap because maybe they're married. They spend some time together. They have some mutual friends. They have some mutual interests. But see, where there's an overlap, they share a lot of things. And it can overlap a little more than this, depending on a lot of different factors. But do you see how this is in the middle between this, too far apart, and this, too much togetherness? This is the balance where you want to try to stay, and you may have to come over here if a relationship is having some issues. You may have to separate for a while, say time out for a few minutes or a few hours or a few weeks, whatever it requires. This will be necessary in a lot of relationships. And this, I don't know that this is ever necessary unless one person has a boulder on their back and they can't carry it. Other people, not just one, would overlap with this person, but it would look more like this with multiple people around them overlapping. And nothing should ever look like this, because this is just extremely unhealthy. Okay, let's look at some traits of healthy relationships, okay? Number one is that the relationship proceeds at a comfortable pace. If you're dating someone and you feel like you're being dragged by a team of wild horses, that's a red flag, because they're not respecting you and what your needs are and the pace you want to proceed at. So otherwise, and also if you are in a relationship where you can't ever go forward, you can't grow, you can't do anything, and you feel like you're going to just keep growing and leave the other person behind, that's a red flag. So there needs to be a balance and a comfortable pace. You want emotional connection. If you were raised in a family that had really very little to no emotional connection, you may not know what that is, and you may need to learn about it and get comfortable with it. Separate identities are when two people have their own identity. I have my identity and you have your identity. We are separate human beings. This is necessary to have a healthy relationship, because if you're so overlapped that you're the same person, then one of you is unnecessary. And you're missing out on all of the gifts and individuality that God created you to be and to have. Individuality is similar to separate identities. You have to have individuality to have separate identities. People are different, even if they share a lot of the same interests and preferences. There have to be differences in them because they're two different people. Even identical twins have individual interests. Most do. Time apart and time together. I've talked about this in other videos where it's necessary to have time apart and time together. Time apart, time together. Time to balance out in time the relationship and the closeness and the separateness. Okay? You would come together with a balance of being apart and together, and it would look like this overall. Another thing that would be a trait of a healthy relationship is that there's open communication. You have permission and the other person has permission. You have it with each other to tell each other anything, and you may have to wait till the appropriate time, but there is open communication. I really like it when you do this. I really don't like it when you do that. I wish you wouldn't do that. Please don't step on my toe, or I'm so sorry I stepped on your toe. Da 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 da. So it's just open. Love is expressed. They have love languages. There are 5 love languages, and it's important to know your spouse's or your friends or your people's love language so you can express that to them, and as well they can express it to you. Outside relationships are important. These type of relationships are usually void of any outside relationship. This is like a mother and an infant relationship. And so this is the only one that wouldn't have outside relationships. But outside relationships are very important. In a marriage, the husband and the wife, they can share some friends and some couples and do have some of the same people. And then the husband can have his own friends and the wife can have her own friends. That is healthy. There should be an equality in the relationship. This means that one person should not dominate the other person. If one person has a really strong, choleric personality and the other, or maybe the wife, has just this little phlegmatic, she won't speak up, it's important that the husband recognize his temperament and not crush her, not steamroll her, not assume he knows what she wants. He needs to pipe down and get her to start speaking up for herself and get to know her needs so that there can be a balance. It's very difficult with these personalities, and a lot of times you have to do some kind of crazy stunt to get their attention. But if you really want the relationship to grow, it's worth it if they're willing to grow past the inconvenience of having to get their attention. Responsibility is very important. Each person, Galatians tells us that each person is responsible to carry his or her own load. And that means you have a little knapsack, remember Tom Sawyer, or a backpack. Everyone has their own personal responsibilities. Everyone has to brush your own teeth. You have to make your own money. You have to, all the little daily things of life. We each have to do that for ourselves. The balance in the relationship is the next one, and that's important because there needs to be a balance between the couples, and that's similar to the equality, but the balance is in the power in the relationship. There needs to be a balance there between the two, and there needs to be a balance between self-care for each individual and then relationship care, a balance between those two as well. There needs to be freedom to call the other person out. If you have a friend and you can never be honest with him or her, and you can never say, you know what, I would like to sit in a table by the window. We always sit away from the window, or just anything like that that would be important to you if you had a need or a preference and you never really got to express that, and they were so dominant or self-absorbed that they never considered you. That would be a problem, and you need to have the freedom to call them out and talk about these things. In other words, you don't want to have to walk on eggshells around somebody. That is a huge red flag, and we'll get to those in a minute. There needs to be freedom to be authentic, freedom to be happy, to feel sad, to feel angry, to feel fear, to express your weaknesses, your fears, your frailties, to just be the human that you are. You shouldn't have to wear a mask or have to be strong all the time around someone in a healthy relationship. And there also needs to be a freedom to process things. Different people process different things in different ways, right? Different temperaments require different circumstances to process. Some people just need to be alone to process something that's happened. Other people need to be in a group and talk about it. Other people just need to take a break. So we need to respect the temperament, especially in our children, but in our spouses and in our friends, and let them process things the way God has designed their brain and their soul to process emotional things or whatever has happened. We have to process it. Healthy conflict is important. Healthy conflict just means that if there is conflict, that you have enough self-control that you're not going to let it escalate to violence or to saying extremely hurtful words, name calling, or anything like that. You take a break, say, okay, we're having a conflict here. We're going to take a break. I'll be upstairs. We'll talk about this later. You have to be able to keep that big picture perspective that this isn't worth it. This isn't going to help the relationship. And if you're feeling very strongly in that area where you have trouble de-escalating, it's probably from a wound from your past that is feeding that need to be heard, or that need for justice, or that need for revenge, or whatever it is in you. It is something else from your past that's feeding it. Okay, FYI, there needs to be fun and playfulness in the relationship at some level, whatever is fun to you. Some people don't really like to go out and go to Six Flags and go to Disney World and go to movies and all that. They would rather, ride bikes or take a walk or maybe go to an art museum. It's different. Everyone's different with what they think is fun. And so you can compromise on some things. But it's fun also not to be so serious all the time. And in doing that, you can incorporate some type of playfulness in your relationship. If things get too serious for too long, maybe you need to have a heart-to-heart. Maybe you need to deal with some heart issues that are causing you to be kind of at odds with each other, and you just don't know how to deal with each other anymore. It's time to talk or get some help for the relationship. Laughter is extremely important in life at all the time for individuals, but also in relationships. Laughter makes positive associations in your brain with the relationship, and it helps you to bond in a positive way. Honesty is important. Obviously, anything that's built on lies is worthless, so honesty is very important. Also, having discretion and learning how to be honest. You don't want to be blunt and wound someone, but you can be honest in a gentle way and at the appropriate time. Trust is important. Again, having trust in your relationship is extremely important, because if you can't trust each other, then the relationship is really not worth very much. Security, you need to know, especially in a marriage, that your spouse is going to be faithful, and if they have an issue, that they can come and talk to you about it, or at least go talk to someone else about it. Kindness is important in a relationship. And for me, kindness includes manners. And if no one ever uses manners, no one ever says please or thank you or gives anyone any positive feedback, it just wears and tears on the relationship too much. There's already so much going on in the world and in our own hearts that is against the relationship. The odds are against it, that I believe that kindness and manners and just general respect is a helpful quality to incorporate into the relationship to help it be more sustainable. Fairness is important. Each party needs to feel that they are being treated fairly, whether there is negotiation or not. Each one needs to feel supported by the other. Each one needs to feel that they can respect each other's differences without the other one judging them or slamming them or making a federal case out of it or starting a fight out of it because there are differences. Differences need to be respected. And it's important to know when to talk about an issue if you are having trouble in some area and when not to talk about it. Sometimes when you need to talk about it, if you talk about it at the wrong time, it makes it much worse. You need to know when to talk and when to wait. And sometimes when you wait so long and you still can't talk about it, you need to know, lastly, when to seek help, when to reach outside the circle of the inertia of the relationship to get some new energy, some new perspective, some new wisdom, something else going on in there to head it in the right direction. Okay, now let's look at some red flags. If you're in a relationship, there's a family member and you're noticing any of these traits, these are red flags. And these red flags mean that you need to have your guard up around this person. You need to be alert around this person. You need to, if you have forgiven them, that's wonderful. But it's helpful for you to remember the things they have done in the past, not to hold it against them, but to protect yourself to make sure that you don't get violated or manipulated again, because people have tactics and it's very easy to see these when you have a strong spirit of discernment, but a lot of people don't have that spirit of discernment. And so I'm always recommending that people pray for the spirit of discernment because it helps you to see so many things that you would never see. Some red flags can be manipulation. Now, there are a lot of manipulators out there, but if you can recognize manipulation and stand in your own skin, you won't be manipulated. We allow other people to manipulate us. We are allowing it because subconsciously we need something from them. We need their approval. We need to agree with them. We need them not to get angry with us. We need something like that. And it's that need that you have that you allow them to manipulate you. So don't ever feel victimized by manipulation. I mean, you can be, but know that it's your issue, that you are allowing it if it happens. And you can work on that and get to where you're very rarely, if ever, manipulated. Dismissing. Oh, whatever you said doesn't matter. Whenever you feel like you've been dismissed, that is a red flag. Blaming. When someone gets put in a position they don't like and all of a sudden they just start pointing fingers at everybody, that is a big red flag. It's showing they're not willing to take responsibility for whatever their issue is. Eggshells is a huge red flag. You'll find in the holidays a lot of times when everybody's doing their little, all the Marthas are out just doing their little thing, there are a lot of eggshells because there are certain people that are very bent on having things their way. They want things their way, and if you interrupt that or interfere with it, you get zapped. So this is a red flag. If you're walking on eggshells, maybe you don't need to be in the area where there are eggshells. That may be a good place, a good idea. And then also you may, if you are feeling up to it, go talk with this person and kind of give them some feedback on the environment. You know, every year we come here and the same thing happens, and you know, we all just feel awkward and like you don't want us to be here because you're so obsessed with all the decorations. You act like they're more important than we are. Do you really want us here? You know, and you can say these things to people. People need feedback and we need feedback. Intimidation, obviously. Intimidation, threats, that's bullying. Coercion, minimizing. Minimizing is similar to dismissing, but it's a little bit different. The message is, however it comes across, well, what you say and what you think and what you prefer really is not that important. So you just be on your way, that kind of feeling. Isolation. If you or anyone is isolating themselves, that is a red flag. The enemy, likes to get the sheep alone, and then he goes in for the kill, suicide, or whatever. Control is a big one, and control is big in families. It's big at the holidays. It's just a big issue, and it's the enemy. It is a spirit of fear that someone operates out of control. It is the enemy at work. And so if you're a controlling person, FYI, the enemy is using you as a puppet. So it's good to say, Lord, I don't want the spirit of fear. I give you control of my life. I give you control of my family. Help me to listen and follow you, and give everybody else to do whatever they want to do. And I'm going to do what I want to do. See, there has to be freedom, or there's no Holy Spirit, or the Holy Spirit is quenched or grieved. He's not happy whenever the Spirit is around, because people obey it, and then they're quenching and grieving the Holy Spirit. Imbalance in a relationship. One person has all the power, or one person makes all the decisions, and one person, it's not a healthy relationship. Deception, obviously, I put isolation twice. It's that important. And disrespect. If you ever feel disrespected in your marriage, your friendship, in your wherever it is, that's an important thing to recognize. And if you keep tolerating it, maybe you have some issues from the past that haven't been resolved, because you should not be tolerating being spoken to that way or treated that way, disrespectful way. Also, irresponsibility. If one person is doing all the work and earning all the money, and the other person is perfectly capable of working, but they don't want to, they don't feel like it, and there's financial struggle, and the person who's doing all the work is allowing this other person to keep on being lazy and not contributing, that's a problem. That's irresponsibility, and you have to hold this other person accountable. Codependency, we talked about briefly here and here. These are what you want to avoid and move toward the middle. No expressions of love. When you don't express a love language or any kind of love to your spouse or your friends, it's a very dry, draining relationship. That's just how it will be. If you both have the same identity, then one of you is unnecessary and one of you is being, or maybe you both are just being suffocated in the relationship. Any berating that goes on, that's obviously unacceptable. Different types of abuse that can take place are verbal. That means with words. You speak words that are abusive, that are hurtful, that are harmful, and they're very wounding. That's how you know that it's abuse. If you're being wounded. Emotional abuse, there is physical abuse, financial abuse, and of course spiritual abuse. Also watch out for abandonment, gaslighting, and any type of violation that you may feel or sense in a relationship. Okay, so this is just a review on healthy relationships coming up for the holidays, but it's totally legit any time of the year and in any circumstance. You can always look at these and say, hey, let me back up and look at myself. How am I moving in an unhealthy way? Where do I need to come back to the middle? Or who are these people I'm around? And let me look at these relationships and what needs to go on. Because remember, you're the policeman of your life. You're the sheriff of your town. And your town is in your skin. And you decide how you will be treated. And in that, you will teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Okay, I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.